We are entering the Jaffa Gate into the old city here. This is it is the main gate. It is the main place where everyone comes to the old city today. As you come into Jaffa Gate, this is the first part of the city that you actually see. And it is full of old shops. And the first quarter that we coming into the Jaffa Gate is the Armenian quarter. The city is divided into 4 quarters: the Armenian quarter, the Jewish quarter, the Muslim quarter, and the Christian quarter. Several ways to go around the old city. You can actually go right through the center, which have avoided this time, and we're going on the outskirts streets through the Armenian quarter, which you can go by and bypass all the thousands of shops that go down through the city streets. And this way here we can get around to the Kotel, which is where the Wailing Wall is. And it is the Lion's Gate that we'll be coming to now, that takes you out to the Tomb of David. And also where we will, now we're coming through the Lion's Gate, and just as we come out here, we'll be coming to the traditional spot for the Last Supper, or the upper room. Also, it sits right above King David's tomb. And of course, this is where Israel has allowed the Pope a seat, which is nothing but short of blasphemy. Once you come out the Lion's Gate there and turn eastward, we actually get an incredible view. It overlooks the Kidron Valley, and of course the Mount of Olives being the mountain opposite of Mount Moriah. The eastern side of the old city here. The Turkish walls here that were built over 600 years ago. The eastern gate was stoned up because they didn't want to see the prophecy of Yeshua to be fulfilled, that he would come through the eastern gate, so they stoned up this gate. And in this garden there are 2 olive trees that were dated, as I've mentioned to you before. They're approximately 2,000 years old. This here is one, and the other here she'll show you just momentarily. I cannot help but believe the reason these trees are here is because it represents the 2 anointed ones, 2 olive trees that are on either side of the golden lamp, which is Yeshua. And I believe that he prayed under these 2 trees. Now we've entered into the area here where Caiaphas' house once sat, and we will be able to see the ruins now. The interesting thing, we are here at the site where Peter actually denied Yeshua 3 times when Yeshua was brought up here to Caiaphas' house for being questioned by the high priest. This statue here was done as a memorial of that particular period. These were the steps that he was led up. 10 years ago when I lived here, we were able to walk up and down these steps. But it is a little bit of a rugged terrain, and no doubt that is probably one of the reasons why they have gated off the area and no longer allow it. But he can't. What you're seeing here, if you're coming up the steps, it would be to your right hand. These are the actual ruins of part of Caiaphas' house. The quarters, the rooms. That's actually, you can make it out, this is actually two different rooms right in here. And there is a set of steps there that lead up out to another portion of this of the house there. Right there, the other steps coming up out. So it was actually a very large house. Now this was part of the old city. This was actually part of the old city at that time, which also just back and behind this area here is where more ruins have been discovered. As far as for the city itself, or the city of David as it's called. And as you can see in the distance there is the Temple Mount. You can see the top of the Dome of the Rock there.
Second temple was a little bit smaller, a little bit less impressive than the first one, but things were about to change when at the end of the Second Temple period, King Herod decided to enlarge and to beautify this space. What did Herod do? And that's the beginning of 2,000 years of exile. When the Romans destroyed the Second Temple, they also tried to destroy the platform that surrounded it, and they succeeded, but only partially, which means that today we can still see some built on a series of arches. Okay? And here you see very clearly how slowly all these buildings happen to almost entirely cover up the western wall of the Temple Mount. This is how today only this part is still visible from the outside. It was only in 1967, during the Six-Day War, that the Israeli paratroopers took the control of the old city of Jerusalem and of the wall. It was 47 years ago. Since then, the wall, the Kotel, is open to everybody, Jews and non-Jews alike, at any moment of the year, by day.
Still working our way through the tunnels, working our way to the Temple Mount, the western wall. As we make this turn right here, coming down, the largest stone that was constructed from the temple wall will be seen here. No one knows how in the world they ever got this thing all the way over to here.
Since we entered the tunnels, we are in front of the continuation of the western wall. And this means that these stones don't only have the same appearance, but they also have the same sanctity, the same importance as the ones which are outside the tunnels. Look at these blocks. See that they're big, they're beautiful, and we can see this carved frame all around of every one of these stones. And that's a very important detail, because from now on, each time you'll be in front of the western wall, and that you'll see big, beautiful stones like this with a carved frame all around of every one of them, you'll know that you're in front of original stones from 2,000 years ago, from the time of the Second Temple period.
Now we're walking along the western wall of the Temple Mount, and still you can see the stones are just massive. This here, as we're coming up here, this is one of the steps leading up to the Temple Mount, one of the original steps. They have sealed off this particular tunnel. This was done in modern times to keep the research up from under the Temple Mount from going on. This would have been one of the steps that Yeshua himself actually walked on. Now we're going along the western wall, one of the tightest part of the tunnels, but you will soon be able to look right down through the glass where we will walk over some of the, where you can actually see where the stones were thrown down from the Temple Mount, which were part of the temple itself 2,000 years ago. This is how you know it's the original stones, because you can see the carvings in the edge of the large stone blocks. Now you're looking down through the glass floor, and this is where the stones were toppled over from the top of the temple by the Romans. So why in the world would we allow the Romans back in Israel? Well, that's beyond me. This was a market street. These were the columns. This was actually a market area here. These are the original stones from 2,000 years ago. We're now just kind of walking in between the mountains themselves. Up above, probably 30 feet high, is the streets. And this is where you'll find one of the natural water reservoirs that is believed that fed the water to the Temple Mount to be able to clean the sacrifice blood away, and as well for people to be able to drink. Probably 40 feet up at this point.